guys? It's your boy Gsluke DFS here for our round 2 prize picks targets for this week's Zurich Classic. We're coming in off a profitable day, hit for 2x profit, 4 for 5 on our picks in this video, which was also close because we were just one stroke off hitting for 12.5x. Would have been over a 2k day for us if we ended up coming through. So it's slightly disappointing that we were that close to hitting big, but feeling close. We have that momentum going our way, and I know we're going to hit for one of these big cards sooner rather than later. So really looking forward to today's round, or I should say for tomorrow's round because it's still here on Thursday. And what we're going to do here is we're going to cover my top 5 props here for Friday. So it's a different situation. Day 1 was best ball. Of course, you're going to see super low scores when you're having the best score out of 2 played on every hole. But for tomorrow, every shot is going to count. It's alternate shot. Players will be rotating every single shot until they get the ball into the hole for all 18 holes. So you're going to see scoring much closer to par tomorrow, perhaps even some over par rounds rather than the 6 to 10 under par rounds that you saw people routinely putting up today. So with that being said, let's go ahead and hop right on into our picks here for the second round. All right, guys, on the screen, you can see the board for tomorrow. And before we hop into the picks, just quickly want to review a few things. First off, the weather, where we're going to see very similar conditions on Friday to what we saw on Thursday. It's right around 10 to 14 miles an hour of sustained wind gusts for much of the day, and upwards of 20 to 25 miles an hour at a max, which isn't anything significant, right? It's about what we saw today, which is really only going to impact players when they're on exposed holes where there's not many trees to block it, and also in holes going into the wind. If they're playing downwind or at a side wind, it's not going to be strong enough to cause real havoc like what we saw at the Masters or Players Championship just about a month or 2 ago. Now, with that in mind, we also have the different format, and here with alternate shot, the scoring average is going to look a lot different. So rather than something close to 65, maybe even 66 at the highest for best ball, it's going to be close to 72, maybe even 72.5. So most of the groups will end up shooting right around par tomorrow. You'll have a few that'll take it to 3-4 under par, but most of them going to be right around even, and you will have a handful of groups also go out there and shoot well over par. Last year, for Friday's round, when you ended up having the same format, ended up having 15 groups shoot over 4 over. So there's a huge disparity between the groups here, which is going to make it an interesting format from a prize picks perspective. With that being said, though, what are the props that I'm looking at here? So there's going to be 2 fades and 3 picks that we're going with as per usual with our 5-leg flexes. If you're new to golf props, at least on prize picks, we have boosts depending on what props you take. So if we end up taking 2 fades, and again, the 3 stances 4 players, it is going to boost our odds from upwards of 8x upwards to 12.5x. So a huge difference there in the payout that we're getting. And the 2 fades I'm going with are going to be on strokes. So like I said before, because this is alternate shot, every single shot is going to count tomorrow. You're not going to be able to get bailed out by your partner. Groups that have a Bubba Watson and HV3, where I'm extremely worried about HV3 tomorrow, and then a group with Sungjae Im and Byung-Han An, where I'm really worried about Benny An tomorrow, are going to be groups that are a prime candidate for taking the over on. So I start with Sungjae Im and Benny An, where I'm taking the over at 71.5 strokes. Sungjae Im is a pretty solid player. He's relatively consistent, and today they only got it to 5 under par. Of course, Benny An, he was a regular on tour for quite some time, but last year ended up losing his tour card. That was a result of him being extremely inconsistent, missing a ton of cuts in the 2020-2021 season, and now is trying to fight his way just on the Korn Ferry Tour to get on by. At the same time, Sungjae Im hasn't played his best golf this week and didn't look all that sharp over the last few weeks as well, even at the Masters. Kind of fizzled out towards the end of that event. And at the same time, Benny An, right, he's also coming in with question marks. So for me, it's 71.5. It's a clear over to take, especially considering that about half of the field is going to shoot 72 or worse. So considering the question marks behind both of these players, they're somebody that I'm looking to fade. It's same thing with this Bubba Watson HV3 group. And the issue for HV3 is his track record in alternate shot is horrendous. He's 0 for 4 making cuts at this specific event at the Zurich Classic, and every single time he's played alternate shot, he's shot well over par. And I know he's had a different playing partner over the years. I mean, even just from last year to this year, has a different playing partner in Bubba Watson, but that's still extremely concerning, especially considering Bubba Watson isn't in the best form. He's been a shell of himself for quite a while now, and over the last 2 months has been very inconsistent, making cuts, missing cuts, hasn't had a flashy finish for quite some time. So considering he's not really the best player in this field, probably below average at this point of his career, somebody like HV3 has just struggled so much at the alternate shot format. Also going to be a prime candidate for a fade. And of course, the main reason I like him at 71.5 rather than something like 72 or 72.5 like Jason Day is because we get the hit at even, right? If they end up shooting even par, we end up hitting at this prop. Actually, before I made the video earlier on this evening, they had Justin Rose at 71.5. I ended up taking the over on that, and they had Jason Day at 72. So these props actually already moved on me. I have another prop card that I already have in with those props. So I don't hate those either. I would still take the over at 72. I'd still take the over at 72.5. But the reason why I like Sungjae Im and Bubba Watson a little bit more is because we have that hit at even par in our back pocket. But now for the guys that I like. So heading over to birdies or better, when you don't have to worry about a blow up hole, when alternate shot can't bite you, when one of your guys hits a shank, absolutely going to love these birdies or better props because, of course, you're immune to those type of things. It doesn't matter how many bogeys you make on the day, just how many times you end up scoring. So let's go ahead and go through these. They're all at 3.5 here. So if they end up hitting 4 or more birdies tomorrow, going to end up hitting for us. So Sam Burns is the first one we'll touch on there at 3.5. He's playing alongside Billy Horschel, who they ended up finishing in the top 5 last year, had a tied for 4th place finish in 2020. Just solid ball strikers, both really solid putters. And that's what I like here is both of them, Sam Burns and Billy Horschel, are top 10 putters in the field. So no matter who's putting them in position, the other player should be more than capable of cashing through and making these birdie putts. If for them to get to 4, I have that as a relatively easy feat. I have them projected for 5.1 birdies, which is well above the 3.5 birdie mark I have them for. I also like a few of the other guys at 3.5. So before we hop into Scheffler and Lowry, I was looking at Taylor Gooch and Homa, Hatton and Danny Willett, Zalatoris and Riley even. Tommy Fleetwood, Sergio Garcia. They were one of the props I had before. They were at 3 birdies. Same thing with Joaquin Niemann and Mito. They were also at 3 birdies before. So there's a lot of these birdies or better props that I would consider taking. But of course, because you have 2 elite putters in a Sam Burns and a Billy Horschel, just a little bit more likely that they get to that outcome. So they're the first one that I'm taking here in the card. The second is going to be Scotty Scheffler and Ryan Palmer. Of course, you have world number 1 Scotty Scheffler in the group, but also Ryan Palmer, who's not only had a ton of success at this event in the past, bunch of top 10 finishes with a variety of different partners, also including a win at this event with John Rahm. He's a solid putter. He gains in almost every shots gained category. The only category he loses in is around the green, which doesn't matter when it comes to birdies, right? We're looking for that top end upside. It doesn't matter how many bogeys they make on the day. So 2 solid putters playing together. Now you have the world number 1 playing, which makes up for the lack in ball striking ability with a Ryan Palmer as compared to somebody like a Sam Burns and Billy Horschel. So definitely like the over there. I have them projected for 5 birdies. So not the 5.1 I have for this elite putting duo, but certainly still well over the 3.5 mark. And now lastly, we have Shane Lowry playing alongside Ian Poulter. Of course, Ian Poulter, an elite of the elite putter, one of the best putters we've seen on tour for quite some time. And then Shane Lowry, who's been sneakily one of the best players in the world over the last month. He's coming in off 3 straight third-place finishes, had the second-place finish at the Honda Classic, just playing insanely good golf, gaining off the tee, gaining on approach, gaining with the putter, just doing Shane Lowry type of things. So the fact that he's playing with an elite level putter like Ian Poulter, we should be able to cash in plenty of the opportunities that Lowry is setting up. And the fact that Lowry isn't a slouch with the flat stick himself means that even when Poulter's putting him in position, which again, I don't expect to be all that often, Poulter, the ball striking certainly leaves a lot to be desired. He should be able to cash in. So somebody I have projected for 5 birdies, just the same as somebody like a Scotty Scheffler, which is again well above the number there. But if you don't like one of these 3 picks, I expect them to be the picks you'd like the most because they're the highest profile players. Still like going to a Taylor Gooch and Homa, Hatton or Willett, like I said before, or one of those few other options down low even, just because I haven't projected all significantly above it, right? It's like 4.4 for Taylor Gooch. Off the top of my head, I believe Tommy Fleetwood was like 4.6, 4.7 birdies over their 18 holes. Just a lot of value to be had on the board here. The real key is going to be on the stroke side, trying to get these fades right. So like I've said before, trying to mix in somebody like a Justin Rose or even a Jason Day for the over on strokes. probably not a bad idea either, especially if you're adding 2 to 3 cards for your golf tomorrow, not just following the main card that I'm giving right here. All right, that's all I've got here for the round 2 picks. Before you hop on out of here, go ahead and let me know down in the comments what your favorite prop on the board is, whether it was something that I mentioned or completely off my radar. Make sure you go ahead and comment that down below. I would always like to hear from you guys. And as per usual, going to have you covered for rounds 3 and 4. So look forward to videos dropping tomorrow night, also on Saturday evening there for the weekend rounds. We're going to be doing our prize picks content, showdown content for those. So if you haven't already liked the video, first off, make sure you do that, but also you make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of that content to come. Not just going to have you covered for the rest of the Zurich Classic, but also for the rest of the events throughout the year, including the PGA Championship at Southern Hills, US Open, Open Championship. Going to have all of the big events and all the smaller events covered as well. So I appreciate you guys. Best of luck with all of your round 2 prize picks targets, and let's get this cash.